You bet. Give it just 30 seconds or so here, and we'll hello everybody. Let's do it this way. It's been a long, hot day down here, to put it mildly. It's crazy. Okay, so we'll get started here. So well, left Sarasota earlier. As you come south down toward Venice, the damage continues to, got the more wind damage up in this area and some storm surge. Made my way down, and just north of Englewood, the water was about 1 foot in places over the road on 776. This is earlier today around noon. And then as I got back down this area, water was up to about 4 feet deep. I actually saw people driving 4 feet deep water. Then it turned into water rescues. And that was around the noon to 2 o'clock time frame. I stopped at a couple of the mobile home courts down here that were damaged. There were no injuries there, but they had trees falling on the mobile homes that crushed them and things like that. In this general area, water's over the roadway in this area really bad in multiple places, like 10 places here. Water's really going on. So anyway, I had to come back north, and I ended up coming back east across 41, I believe that's it, that cuts across there. And yeah, 41, US 41. It's open. It's got some high water in places. So as it came east here, when I started getting over here to Warm Mineral Well Springs area in North Port area, as you guys know, there's a lot of, if you don't know, there's a lot of mobile home parks in this area, and those were hit moderately heavy. Some of them, let's see if we can get the satellite to load down. Here we go. Here's one of them I stopped at. So La Costa mobile home. I was in all these mobile homes today, what areas I could drive in. This area has, again, some light damage, moderate damage, and heavy damage. Anything that's open, like an open air, like in these valley areas where you have a big open area to those other areas, then that area becomes where the wind was on the northwest. That's where the air accelerated in these open areas, and then whatever mobile homes was there first, that's what got hit, right? So this area received, I've just talked to some people, state level, they're going to have help. Don't know of any injuries here or any fatalities, but a lot of mobile homes were damaged here. Like I said, light, moderate, and heavy, right? A lot of the houses I saw and buildings I saw in Southwest Florida had the roofs peeled back, and large trees would fall into the houses and mobile homes. So that area has damage. There's just damage swath all through here. It's everywhere, right? It's not like one area is worse than another. All these areas were damaged coming down 41. The more interesting thing, Murdoch area damage. All these, as you get closer to the coast and down closer where those 140-mile-an-hour winds were, just south of Port Charlotte, and then also in the Putaguana area, in this area, it was pretty extreme. We did lose 2 cranes, though. I think there's 5 cranes I was filming. The 3 there on the video when the eye wall was going through. There's 2 on the north end that fell down. One of them fell into the building and crushed like 6 floors on the north side of the building. And then when that happened, there was damage there. There's water, it came back in here in the Peace River. There's water, there's boats everywhere. There's boats sunk in this area. Came down through Port Guana, and again, traffic's very heavy. A lot of boats and stuff, just traffic coming down 41. It's very heavy, water in places. And we get down here closer to Fort Myers. Again, the damage gets worse as you come south, both in the wind damage and which way the wind is. One thing of interest, kind of for my meteorologist friends here, most of the damage from Sarasota down to the Fort Myers area, almost this continuous way, all the trees and the damage, the roofs are peeled from the northwest. That's when that northwest eye wall, as the center passed and you swung around to that west-northwest wind, you had gusts, whatever, 100, 110, 120. That's when most of the trees, roofs peeled off and uprooted. Everything's laying from the northwest to southeast, from about Sarasota, Venice area, all the way down to just about on the north side of Fort Myers. Then in the Fort Myers proper is the first time I actually saw trees leaning back to the north from the southwest inflow, right? So I made it down, it's been the last 2 or 3 hours down in the Fort Myers area. Made it down to nobody's allowed over here unless you're homeowners there. don't have a number of fatalities, but there are fatalities up here, and they're still got ongoing search and rescue going on, and it's very difficult. I'll leave that. I'll go into that in a minute, more in a minute. One of the most interesting things I found, there's just tremendous amount of boats that came out of the harbor, big boats, small boats, fishing boats, anywhere with that southwest wind that I passed, they're up on the road. I have many boats up on the road all over the harbor. A lot of the boats sunk. There's huge freighter boats all over this area. All big freighter boats have come up. Like I said, I wasn't able to get across, but I understand from locals that did go over there, there's really deep sand. One gentleman was on a phone, his daughter was on the phone with her friend on the island, and they basically told, she was on the second floor of one of the condominiums they live in, and the water was already to the second floor, and then the building collapsed, and they've not been able to find people. So we have those kind of stories going on. And let me just a minute, let's see if this is what I think it is. Hang on. So this is north of Fort Myers. So we've had ambulances, and this is an engine company. So yeah, so I guess with rotary. So anyway, I was talking to the state people a while ago. I got friends in the state, and there's huge task force coming down. Police, fire, we've got EMS, there's all of the medical, we've got Coast Guard helicopters being flying, search and rescue all day to day, rescuing people off of houses on the remote islands. Got word just a few minutes ago, update that the Coast Guard is still ongoing search and rescue, pulling people from houses in the island, the barrier islands. Those are still ongoing as of sundown. They'll commence again in the morning. They're still got search and rescue going all over this area. You got people in boats they're stranded on shores. You got people on rooftops, and I have not been able to access this area to tell you and show you things, but I do have a lot of other footage from back here. So I did come into something pretty incredible here. So there's so many people, and there's a mass of people here on the north side of the bridge with security and police, and you have to show ID. So this becomes a big parking ground for everybody to walk across the bridge over here to the outer barrier islands there at Fort Myers Beach, all the local residents. And in doing so, I run into a couple of people. So during that time of waiting, I took the road, and I went back here to the back, and I kind of just traveled back here and around the back, and made my way backing up in here. And one of the things I came across was a gentleman, and his name is Captain Doug. And Captain Doug, he has a big sailboat, and he was out in the harbor here. Okay, he was out in this pass here. He's out in this harbor right here, and he told me his story. I recorded it. It's absolutely incredible. He was on his boat, and when the mooring broke loose, he was in this field right here, like this right here. All these boats are mooring. He was number 35. His boat, the wind picked up to 110, then gusts to 125, and then up to 147 on his anemometer's boat. It broke loose. He had 3 surges, and he told me that when the last one came in, the boat just it's like he said it's like a tidal wave, because it wasn't as bad as Dorian, but that was 20 plus foot storm surge wavy. But the third wave came in, and it broke him off the mooring, and his boat and everything went surging over here. And I found him. There's the parking lot. Yeah, I found him on this back corner, and he was right here, and there's boats piled up all over here, probably 40, 50 boats. They all went in the river and then piled up on all these shores. So when I came around the corner this afternoon, I came around right here, and I saw this guy kind of down on the ground, just kind of like I knew something was wrong with him, and probably survived, and he hadn't had no help yet, and he was kind of shell-shocked. He had a dog with him named Abby. And so anyway, after talking to the guy a few minutes, he started telling me his story, and I've recorded it. It was just totally unbelievable what happened to him. So anyway, we ended up having a kind of a lunch. We shared bananas and apples and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. She gave him a case of water. I helped the dog, because the dog was extremely dehydrated, and was a very nervous wreck after what happened to the owner, last night. So Captain Doug and the dog, we sat there and chatted for about 45 minutes, and he was able to get a hold of somebody that's coming to pick him up. But his story's I want to save it to what happened and put it in his words, what he went through and what he experienced. The guy is an extremely experienced sailor, and apparently people know him all over the world, and he's told me about all this stuff. He actually trains people how to sail boats from Fort Myers down to Key West. He does training for people, right? So the guy's got a lot of experience. You can tell he's pretty salty, but the guy was very it's just really luck I run into the guy. I mean, I've run into the guy, he needed help, and he hadn't been tended to yet. And so anyway, he's got help coming. So the more of the story is just massive damage. I've just now had internet. If you had internet, you can get a call out, sometimes a text, most of the time nothing. And I'm actually shocked that I'm actually getting video out of here on the north side of Fort Myers, as I'm literally over here I'm just over here on the north side. And I'm up here right now. I just came from this down here, and I'm up here now. So that's my location right now, right near the 869 loop. I've actually got coverage. I had cell service here now. It was the first time I've had cell service all day. So it's widespread storm damage, widespread wind damage. This hurricane is weird in the sense of, with the Cat 4 making landfall, it was just the northwest wall, the eye wall was just extremely intense with winds. Like I say, from Sarasota south, the more south you go, the worse the damage is, right? And you get more intense damage in this area, and definitely when you got down closer to Fort Myers, where you had, I believe it was, the number was 140 off the top of my head. 140, you had gusts in this area of 140 during the back west eye wall. After the eye pass, you had gusts of 140 in this area, and it definitely, you can tell it by the rooftops and the amount of damage down here is pretty extreme. I mean, it definitely is a Cat 4 type damage. But anyway, the storm surge down here was massive. Most of the people tell me 15, maybe as high as 18 feet. And you can imagine a wall of water 15, 18 feet high, right? And all these houses. But people were out on the island tell me that it's in their words, it was obliterated. They said most buildings, it's just like you wiped everything out on the island, right? There's a lot of houses there. I'm trying to go from 3D here. A lot of houses, buildings, and I said water just plowed through everything, right? Like a big bulldozer. A lot of buildings are down. A lot of houses are down. And a lot of the bigger buildings, if they're a couple story, 2, 3 story, most of the stuff in the first floor has been blown out. That's what the people that came back over the bridge were telling me, their stories of what they found on the other side. There are ongoing search and rescues going as of 7 p.m. The U.S. Coast Guard and ground units still have an operation search and rescue ongoing. They have not found everybody. They are working through thousands of calls of help that came in during the hurricane. They're trying to locate people. That doesn't mean there's thousands of people still trapped. This means there's thousands of calls. They've got to go through that checklist, right? The other good news is, from the state I heard a little bit ago, and they're coming, is if you got people down here, France, the Florida Emergency Management has got an armada of task force. I just saw West Palm Beach and Fort Myers, West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale, engine companies and ambulances just arrived, but there was a task force of hundreds of units, police, fire, medical advanced units. They've got multiple, teams of ambulances coming down for people that are injured, and this people step on nails and they step on things days and weeks after a hurricane, right? So they're to help not only today but also in the weeks ahead. I understand Red Cross is bringing their people to bring in food, water. They're going to set up mass feeding operations down here to feed upwards of 50,000 people a day just in Fort Myers. We're bringing in food cantinas. So between the, and I understand there's naval operations coming in as well. So we're going to have U.S. Coast Guard has been operating all day. Additional U.S. helicopters were coming in the morning, and as well as other resources. But literally hundreds of emergency vehicles, as well as support from all the counties around the state of Florida and other states are bringing in hundreds of ambulances and trucks, and support personnel are coming in from the generators, bulldozers, forklifts, things to remove debris out of the road, all those kind of things. Like I said, I'm just just north of Fort Myers, but I can tell you, on the other side of this bridge here has got about 1.5 feet of water. There's water standing because when the tidal wave, the storm surge came in, the water got in so far that where you don't normally have water, and then when it left these big areas of water around the city, right? Not just next to the water, but just all over the place, and you had all the heavy rain. So with all that combined, there's a lot of water in a lot of places that normally don't have a lot of deep water, and so you have to slow down. So all the lights are out from basically Sarasota all the way down here, lights are out. So at every intersection, you got to treat it as a four-way stop, right? And so people were stopping, so it takes you an enormous amount of time just to go 20 miles. That may take you an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's because you've got to stop at every intersection, right? And traffic so far hasn't been that heavy, but it can start getting that way, especially as getting tomorrow. But the news is, if you hadn't been able to hold of your loved one, again, communication is extremely spotty here. You may get up for 5 minutes and then you're nothing for 2 hours. And that's the way it's been all day, all on the southwest coast of Florida. So I'll be uploading some videos and some things I've taken today along the route here and what I've discovered. And a lot of people down here, unfortunately, even though most people knew the hurricane was coming, a lot of people just with the late evacuation notice and things like that, a lot of people just didn't have enough time to get out quick enough. Is what most people on the ground from this area are telling me, right? I said, did you evacuate? Well, no, we really didn't know we were supposed to evacuate until really late, the night before and the morning of. And again, in a lot of areas, you got mobile homes. A lot of those people are 80s, they're in their 90s, or elderly. I've seen thousands of elderly people over the last couple of days in these mobile home areas, all the way from Sarasota southward down here. And a lot of those people have very little means to do a 2 or 3 hour drive to leave, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. So there's going to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that need to be fed, that need to be helped, not just down here in Fort Myers, but all the way from Sarasota down 41, all the way down here to Fort Myers. Just think about Sarasota, 41 and 75, all these small towns and communities all along here. There's no power, there's no gas, there's no food, there's no water, okay? So there's literally hundreds of thousands of people that need our help all across Southwest. So the faster we can get the Red Cross down here, Goodwill, feed trucks, anybody has any kind of feeding opportunities, like the trucks that feed you, pull up side of the road and you got a food truck, Ford Silver's truck. I've seen a couple of stand, there'll be literally 100, 200 people in line on the side of the road trying to get food, right? So if you think about people that have ways to bring food in, refrigeration, to feed people, besides everything, this is going to take a monumental effort to help everybody down here. This is not just one little area. This is hundreds of miles with no power, no food, no gas, and they need help, right? And they need help very, very soon. So anyway, that's kind of a real short update from this deal. There's just so much to cover. It's just mind-blowing. It's a big hurricane, lots of damage, and a lot of people, again, no power and water down here and electric. And again, we still have ambulances. I've seen ambulances running hot. That brings people out of Fort Myers. 1 hour, 1 over 2 hours coming over the bridge, running hot, which they got people in the ambulances are taking them, right? They find people injured, whatever, and they're hauling them to the closest medical facility, right? So that's been happening all day down here, and it continues to happen at night, and it will happen all day tomorrow, because it's still on an ongoing search and rescue across the area, and they're working many reports of missing people, right? So they don't have numbers. Nobody's speculating on numbers. I'm not going to speculate on numbers, but that's kind of what's going on down here, okay? So anyway, there's another local EMS, and I hear another task force coming from the north. So like I said, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of task force around the state are pouring into Southwest Florida as we speak. They're on the way, as well as many Coast Guard and medical type advanced teams, and they're arriving now, and will be tonight and tomorrow. There'll be many of them coming. There's another task force that looks like it's coming. This has been going on all day, all over the area, right? So I found out a few minutes ago. Also found out some people are some friends of mine they're over at Pine Island, and they got trapped, stuck over there with no way to get off. So we're trying to help people in remote islands. I will tell you, there's a number of people in the remote islands. Pine Island's another one to give an example. I don't know. I don't have the count over there, but I know there's people still, as of the sundown, and sun's going down now. As of 15 minutes ago, people are still waiting on the ferry area on the southeast end of Pine Island. There's people either trying to look for airboats or way to get off the southeast corner of Pine Island back over to either to Fort Myers or back over to mainland somewhere where they can be rescued. I don't know what the number is, but I understand there's a large group of people waiting on the ferry service pier area on the southeast side of Pine Island trying to get rescued. That's all I know. I don't know numbers. I don't know how many people, but I know there are people over there waiting. So I passed that information on to the state, and they put it as a on the list of task force to get to them by Coast Guard. Helicopters probably tomorrow morning, but anyway, that's being worked. So there's all these kind of reports coming in from all over the area, right? So that's ongoing right now across Southwest Florida as we know it tonight. So hang in there. If you don't hear from your loved one, don't think the worst, right? It's just a lot of people without power, without communications. And communications here is virtually non-existent. I can tell you, I've tried all day long to put Twitter out, put feeds out, put clips out, call people, text people, and it's virtually been non-existent for almost from Sarasota all the way to Fort Myers. It's virtually non-existent. And I've got 3 different networks. I want to tell you, Verizon, AT&T, and the T-Mobile, and all 3 of them are spotty at best. Okay, I'm just telling you like it is. Like I said, I'm shocked I'm actually able to get out right now. I'm stunned because this is one of the worst hit areas. I did see some of the cell companies bring in their called portable cows, which are the local area cell service. They bring them up. They get in some fiber optics in this local area. I did see a couple of cows being towed into Fort Myers about 3 hours ago. When I came right down this road, I saw the cows being pulled by a couple cell companies. I'm not sure which carrier it was, and they're starting to pull those down here. But more and more of those assets will be getting here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, communications will improve. So you'll be able to probably start getting more calls and text out this heavy damaged area all along the coast. Okay, so that's area. Yeah, I know, I'm aware about Reed's situation. So we're working on that as well. So that's what's going on down here, and that's it from right now. And we can give you another update tomorrow and on what else we find, okay? Everybody be safe. And just pray for the people in Southwest Florida. They need all of our help. It's going to be a long road ahead for a lot of these people because they've lost everything, okay? And it's really bad. Just trust me, it's really bad. All right, guys, that's it from here. Let me know if you guys need anything, and I appreciate all your support and everything. I really do. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.